So while all you lazy bums were sitting on the couch, it's too cold, put out some mineral, did some cutting, and this time of year I want to see what they're eating, I want to see where their travel routes are, and then I just put some mineral out here and did some cutting. So let's look at some of the projects I did 2 or 3 days ago and see what they're utilizing and what they're not. They're definitely hitting mineral. If you're going to do mineral, do it now. If you don't like it, fine, don't do it. But if you're going to do it, right now is when they need it. They're replenishing their skeletal structures. They're worn out from the rut. They need the nutrients, and it's either going to go to their skeletal structures or into the rack. So right now is the time to get it out. And I put this out, I think 3 days ago, and they're already annihilating it. So they want it, need it, and are using it. So the mix I put out, generally I try and find something with about 8% or more phosphorus, and if you find that, all the other things usually follow. So when you find 8% phosphorus, usually the calcium levels are doubled, and usually when you find that, it's not loaded up with salt. It's just not diluted salt with salt. So you'll have selenium, cobalt or B vitamins, D, all the other nutrients generally follow if you get a good quality mineral. And I'd say one key thing is look for about 8% phosphorus, and usually the rest of the ingredients follow, so you know you got a good quality product and it's not just a bunch of salt, which is essentially doing nothing. And if they don't eat it at first, you can add a little more salt to it and dried molasses. And I think I did add a little bit of molasses and salt to this one because it was a very low salt content mineral. So molasses and salt is something you can add to get them going if they don't eat it. I'd say they like my cutting. This trail is 2 or 3 days old, and I just knocked a bunch of stuff down in here. Junk. Look at this. Look at, it's like a corn pile almost. So they eat all the tips and buds off of here. Yeah, look at that. They just chew them right off because they're tender and they're full of nutrients and they're out of reach. So we put them in reach. And you know, if you have 5 acres of timber, sure, you probably don't want to go around constantly cutting trees down, but any forest, generally any sizable forest, is going to be overstocked. It's going to be far too many stems per acre, so it's good to open the canopy up for, you know, later for the growing season. But there's all sorts of junk trees and trees of no value that you want to thin down anyway because the forest is naturally overstocked. So we're just thinning some inferior trees, and it's crazy. In 2 or 3 days, it looks like a corn pile in here. In this example, these are oaks, but it's oak thinning. So there might be a dozen oaks growing in a small cluster, which really should support 2 or 3 oaks. So we're taking the best 2 or 3 oaks and removing the inferior ones. So, which is crop tree release, but it's got all these other benefits. Now there's structure on the ground. I mean, there's beds next to these, and I just cut them. So guys think that if they do TSI, they're going to be running all the deer out of their woods. They won't find sheds. Well, it's actually the opposite. You probably will find more sheds. There's beds all through here now. And if you do this a few times, literally the deer will start getting used to the chainsaw sound and will come in right after you stop chainsawing because they know it's dinner time. So really good nutrition for them. Here's an area that was really overstocked, and then maybe we can show what it looks like really overstocked behind us. Really overstocked. There was no sunlight getting to the floor. There was way too many trees, and if you look up now, I mean, it's wide open sky, and it's just, you know, it's the size of somebody's kitchen. It's 15 trees maybe. I do areas where it's a lot more than this, sometimes less. Sometimes I'll get the trees completely on the ground, but for right now I just wanted them within the deer's reach, and they can get around this so easily that it's not a mess that's overdone. So a lot of open sky now, and this will shoot up with new growth in the summer, and this right here will feed a ton of deer, and that's why there's a gazillion beds and tracks all through here. So while I'd say most people are out thinking about shed hunting, I'm not really thinking about that, to be honest. So I would think about forestry management, going and cutting at least some junk trees out of the timber, or getting a forester lined up so you could do it ASAP. So getting that nutrition blown up immediately, getting mineral down if you're okay with it, if it's legal, other supplemental feed. The other thing I got done when there was no snow and the ground was nice and froze was I got all my fertilization done. So that's breaking down as we speak. So if you wait till spring to do it, a lot of times it takes another year before it's available. So right now I'm way ahead of schedule on that, and it's breaking down. So fertilizing, nutrition for the deer, looking where they're bedding, finding all their trails, all your scouting. I'm definitely a low intrusion, don't mess up my spots, don't overhunt things, but absolutely this is the time of year where I'll go out multiple days in a row. And kind of how I do like timber stand improvement or anything is I'll go into one area and I'll just hit it until it's done. And that might take 3-4 days. I'm not constantly popping around every section of the farm and rotating through where they're getting disturbed for a month straight, but I might go in this area and work here for 2 and 3 days, and then I'm done. And I might come back and shed hunt this, and I'll guarantee you with all the trees I'm cutting down, I'll find more sheds in here. So I would not worry about the intrusion factor whatsoever. Fundamentally change your ground. Right now is the best time to do it. And while you guys are out shed hunting and goofing around, or maybe even sitting on the couch, I'm gonna get all this stuff done. And we'll go make some more bedding areas and more nutrition and open the canopy up in a few spots that are kind of choked out. Where's my earplugs? So I wear earplugs plus these because these actually kind of suck. And to hear ee every day, all day, you don't want to do that like I have to for the rest of my life.
What's your go-to saw for TSI? What's the model?
Probably a Steel 261 is my favorite. They used to make a 241, and I'd say that was the perfect timber stand improvement saw, but they discontinued it because it was such a niche market. But the 261's like enough power, and it's got a good gas capacity. A 16-inch bar is just fine. And you start getting bigger and they just get a little too bulky. You don't really need it. And the other thing, run a full chisel chain as long as you're good with a saw. They just cut so much better than those safety chains. So I think they're yellow chains. If you buy a steel chain, that'd be full chisel. Don't buy the green. They have a green marking on them. Those chains suck. I hate those chains, but a 261 is a fantastic saw with a 16-inch bar and a full chisel chain. Here's some honey locusts, and if your farm is not loaded up with honey locusts, I would leave some. If they're producing pods in the center of your woods and you're not just overloaded with them, I like leaving them because they're such a great food source. If they take over something like a pasture, sure, get rid of them. But in the middle of my timber, here's a honey locust, especially when they have pods, I just leave them be. So it used to be super thick, full of stems here. 10 minutes later, a lot of really good young trees that needed some reduced competition got it. And now there's structure all over here. There's little pockets we opened up for sunlight. There's more bedding areas in an area that really was doing nothing before. If you check this little pocket out, deer can bed in here, and we've got full sunlight now. So, I mean, full sunlight exposure, and this was completely shaded before. Here's some old stump sprouts. You can see the mold on there. It's been a while. But every time they, look at that, I mean, that's fairly fresh actually. Anytime it puts any growth on, they're chewing on it. So instead of like a regular tree branch which the root system is supporting the whole tree. Now this whole root system puts all the nutrients into the buds, into these new sprouts that come up. So they're super, super nutrient dense, like protein and all your micros and macros are going to be at a far higher rate. So it'd be very similar like soybean level. Really, really good nutrition from stump sprouts. And we'll find some more, and I guarantee you they're just eaten alive. Yeah, look at this. And that one's kind of coming back a little bit. That's not the best example, but I mean, they hammered it. Let's find some more. If you see all the woody browse down there, which it's a massive variety between woody browse, forbs, legumes, regeneration, some stuff you don't want, and then you go right over here to where it's shaded in from these big cedar trees. I mean, you're probably going from 1,000, 2,000 pounds per acre of natural forage throughout the year to 50 pounds, nothing, a couple hundred at the most. So the more of these areas we can open up, you're literally feeding the deer with your forest. Look at over there. It used to be so canopied up here that there was nothing on the floor, and I literally opened it up enough where grass can grow. Timber stand improvement, I always say, like, I don't know, 8 birds with 1 stone, but you've got more bedding areas, you've got instant nutrition on the floor, you're increasing your timber value immensely, probably in a multiple of 10 if you carry it out long term. Your mass production, acorns, stuff like that's going to blow up. The tonnage per acre of natural browse and regeneration is going to go up. You'll actually have more oak regeneration. You'll have thermal cover. You'll be able to support more bucks. More bucks will have more desirable bedding areas, so they're not fighting over the most desirable bedding areas. So your buck carrying capacity is going to go up, your doe carrying capacity. Just down the list, I could keep going on and on and on. Proper forestry management is huge. Nobody should not be doing it. There's something you can do in every single situation in the woods. No matter what you have, there's something you can do to better the situation.